everyone. So we are late again today. Sorry about that, guys. I'm here now. Let's see who's going to come along and watch us do our koi fish today. Attempt to do 2 ink paintings today, but decided that one's probably enough. And it's coming to the end of the week. Big news week, I understand, on Sunday. Things might be a-changing. So let's just wait a little while, as usual, to see who's going to join us. Late I was going to do. It's become incredibly busy, which I'm grateful for, but it's taken a toll this week, answering all the queries and emails. Lessons are getting booked and oversubscribed. I'm having to put new lessons on, so all's good in the world. Whilst we're waiting for more to join, hello Sandra. I've gone for the fish, yes. Oh, you've drawn a parrot. Oh, it's going to be a very different process to mine. Yeah, I thought the fish because I've done quite a lot of drawing, and actually Indian ink, like watercolours, a little bit different. We've not done one of those since we did funky inky cow with flower in its mouth. So I think there's a lot of people now that are watching that probably weren't watching back then. So and I love a koi fish. Hello Fred, you with Nanny? Michelle's just messaged me to say that she's there with Fred, who I think Fred is her grandson. I may be wrong, it may be a dog, but I think it's her grandson. So see how we're doing. So there's 11 of you at the moment watching. That's 4. I usually get up to 20s at least. Who else is coming to join? Joy, hello. Joy, welcome along. It was lovely to see you yesterday in the real world, albeit briefly and at a distance, I'd like to add. Okay, a couple of more minutes. So we're going to be using Indian ink. Okay, so lovely, gorgeous Indian ink. Now, for those who haven't used Indian ink before, a little bit about it. It acts like an ordinary ink and like a watercolor. It's obviously water soluble until it's dry. Indian ink is a gum that's contained within it. You don't know who to draw, what to draw. I'll give you a moment to draw a fish, Sandra. While I talk about the tools, you should be able to do it. Okay, so Indian ink has a gum in it, okay? And it's the gum that makes it permanent when it's dry. So watercolor is never permanent. It's a watercolor 10 years into an old painting, drop, and the paint will lift. Whereas with Indian ink, because of the gum that's in the ink, once it's dry, it's dry. So that's the only downside to it. But it is a beautiful medium to work with. So I've got my little jars of ink. If I want ink, I have it in 60ml jars similar to that. I'm going to be using a watercolor brush to apply the ink. And I've got my bamboo dip pens. Again, if you want some bamboo dip pens, I have sets of those available on my well. I'm starting to build up more stock of things. I've got my technical drawing pens, so my uni pens. Again, I stock 3 sizes on my website, 0.2, 0.5 and a 0.8. I might not use these today. A pencil and an eraser. And I have my mixing palette to mix the different tones of Indian ink that I'm going to use within the drawing. Okay, 2 pots of water, and of course, let's not the obvious. I'll just have a quick sip and then we'll get started. Thank you for joining me on this lovely sunny day. Oh, that tea's a bit hot. Okay, I'm going to move my fish just to one side. I'll try and keep him, I'll put him in shot. I'll move my stuff over so he can stay in shot. There we go. Oh, the art of the possible. So already sketching my fish out, and he's quite a very, very cool shape when you're starting with your fish. I always, with the body, the long lozenge shape, sketch him in around his face. Be careful around here. He has some interesting little tentacles around the mouth. Now, I've just realised I made a mistake earlier when I started sketching, so I'm just correct that mistake. So I do generally start sketching in pencil. If you make a mistake, you have that opportunity to correct it before you commit to that permanent ink. Now, I said the ink is permanent when it's dry. It is, but you do have a few moments of grace before it dries when you can lift it and treat it. You can do it with can you do it with fine liner? You're probably better doing it with watercolor, Joy, because fine liner, let me just see, let me answer your question with let me see, if I'm using fine liner and I want to shade in the spot body, I could hatch, and if I'm quick, no, you're going to struggle with fine liner unless you colour in all his spots completely, which is going to take you an age, and you won't get the same effect. So I would say no to fine liner for the spots. For the drawing, it's fine, and I would go use the black watercolour that I never normally allow you to use, and use that in the same way. Okay, Joy? Sorry, honey. Right, so I've already sketched his face out, and I was just starting, before I went to make a cup of tea, to mark out where the very complicated these, and they are like ink splodges, to be fair, like one giant swimming ink splodge. I used to keep koi fish when I lived in London. We had a huge pond which my ex maintains, and the fish, can you believe it, which we had from when my daughter was 5 or 6 when we put the pond in. Some of those fish are still alive, and they're coming up to 25 years old. They're amazing, still going strong. I'm not going to sketch too many of the patterns in. I'm going to let that happen more organic on the paper. I'm just going to move to make sure if there's any more comments coming through, I can see them. Sorry, my cursor's stuck up here, so there are. Let me come down. Let me just see. Hello, Jackie. Natasha. Hello, Natasha. Water-soluble ink will be fine. You've drawn a fish. Good, good, good. Handwriting pen. Beryl. Ah, yes. Perfect. Perfect. Well done, Joy. Just the fins. Now, when I paint this fish, for video purposes, I have been inking in the drawing first. I want to save the ink outline till last. So clear enough for you to see. Excuse me, guys, I do need to have a quick. Okay, so once he's drawn out, I'm going to start with different dilutions of ink. So let me just show you. I've just got 3 colours that I'm going to use. I've got my pots of water here. I'm just going to mucky one of them. Okay, so your darkest would obviously be the pure ink. So in the middle here, I have the pure neat ink in its for rich dark form. Wash my brush out. Then I've got one a bit lighter that's had some water added to it. So that's pure ink. You'll see the difference when this dries better. Just This one has some water in, and you'll start to see the difference. And then the next one is my mid-tone. So this is my dark, this is my mid-tone. And start away with just having dirty water as your light tone. Keep rinsing your brush out, your water gets dirtier and dirtier. And unlike colour, where you've got a mixture of colours, because we're just working in ink, you can get away. When I'm diluting these, I put some, then I take some pure ink into the first one, dark, and then I will take from that one to the next one to dilute it further, and so on, until I get the range of colours that I'm looking for. And this is my lightest colour, okay? It's light, medium, and this is my dark tone. You might be able to see there is some light in that compared to the darkest ink. Can you see that shine? Wonderful. These, get rid of that bit of paper somewhere, out of the way, out of harm's way. So I'm going to start, just as I do with watercolour. I've got signal, Sandra, today, so I don't think it would be jumpy. Let's see how we go. I'll try not to knock the camera. So what I'm looking for in my fish are the lighter colours on his body. So I'm not worried about going over spots. I'm just going to take this lightest colour, and it's very light, all over the fish, just some areas of white where I see them. Now his whole head, croaky today. I'm really sorry, guys. Just going to darken that. Oh, there we go. So it's like dirty watercolour, staining the paper. Just using the tip of the brush, wash around, looking at the reference picture. Down the side of his face, there's an area of shadow around his mouth, come across his head. There's some white areas here. The main area of white comes along this section of his, this line along the length of his body. So I'm going to bring some of this light up the side, over his fin, dorsal fin, is that? Or is this the dorsal fin? I don't know. Just a very light wash everywhere at this stage, leaving the white of the paper where I see this section, as I say, down the middle. I'm also going to bring in the fins, which don't have any white showing. It looks white, but it's not pure white. So it'd be the lightest colour. 2 fins there, and the little one, let's not forget that one over the side. Okay, now to make this fish nice and organic, I'm going to work wet into wet. So I just realised I've missed his towel. Let me just do that. But I don't want, this is the bit where you have to get used to how quickly, and it will change day, how quickly your water sinks into the paper. So on a hot day like today, it should sink in than in the middle of winter. And it's looking at your paper, putting your head down on the side and having a look to see if that shine is on the paper or whether it started to seep in. Mine's starting to seep in. So I'm going to go for my next colour, which was this one, and start some of this pattern in. Tip of my brush, I'm just going to tap tip of my brush on his head where I can see this dark pattern. He's very dark actually all the way along this back side. And this is going to end up being the mid-tone, okay? So I'm looking at all of that pattern at this stage. The dark splodgy pattern will come later. I'm just various tones to our little fish, big fish, over the top of the colour we put down. So I'm getting multiple layers. Now the fin that's behind, so there's 2 fins over this side. I'm just going to drop in my darker colour for the fin that's sitting behind. And I said you can't lift out dry, but as you can see, whilst it's wet, I put colour on this fin, so I'm just pulling some out with a damp brush, going in, that colour back out again. Remember, ink, just like watercolour, will dry light. I'm just going to bring some pattern up here. And down the fin. So when I bring my dark colours, I've already got some different tones going on. I'm going to bring some lines into this fin in the darker colour and a little bit over here. So we're starting to matchy. Can you see the lighter colour still there? Slightly darker colour that I've got, wet in wet. I'm letting it bleed and play. I'm going to bring a few dark patches here. Not following any particular pattern at the moment. I just want an light and dark colour my fish. A little bit too far, so I'm just going to mop that up a little. His head. Just to lighten that. I might be add some water. Try and reactivate it if you can. If this happens, if you're too late, you're too late. And just lift out. That just spread a little bit too far, was still a little too wet and got carried away. So just lift that out. So I've got some more light within that head area. We're going to put a little shadow on this fish as well. I don't want him just floating air. I want him in water. So okay, I'm going to let this dry a little bit longer this time. So I'm just going to lift that and look for that shine to start sinking in, which it is already. I'm going to move to my smaller brush. You know, I should have used my my new brushes, my oriental ones for this. Koi Carp is Japanese after all. Okay, so I'm going into my darkest colour. Pure ink. I do want it to have been a little bit of water in it. I'm going to drop in. And now this is where I'm looking at the pattern. So I can see he's got this ridge coming along his back. So along there, right up on the tip of the brush, tap down pattern that's coming in my brush on the side, just to create some interesting pattern. Again on the head here, there's some dots. Now that's still spreading quite a way there, so I'm going to leave it. Spread too far, it's too wet. And just lift that out, cut to it. As I say, if you capture these moments as they happen, you've got the chance to make a difference and rectify. I'm just teasing the paint with the tip of my brush. I'm going to come down the side of him and be careful here. It's one area where I just want to make sure I get this thin line come down towards his. Look how these colours are starting to look together. The tones, sorry, colours, is what I mean. And I'm just going to tap. I'm literally tapping motion with the end of my brush. Tap, tap, tap. tapping down this pattern of ink, rather than brushing it on in the shape, if you tap it, you can get the random marks around the outside of these patterns on him or her. Who knows? Tap away, bringing in this pattern. Leaning back a little, I noticed I was getting very close to my page and I couldn't see in one shot the reference picture. And you can easily get sucked into your page. So every now and again, watch your and pull back away. Just come down the side of his face. Now, where his eye, I'm going to be careful because I want a gap. And I'm going to put his eyeball in, just the tip of the brush, and then there's going to be, because his eye's on the side, there's a bit of a gap. So try and maintain that gap there. I'm going to lift him up. I'm going to raise him up a little, guys, so you can see better. Okay, so there is a bit of a gap I can see in the reference picture at the back of his eye on the left-hand side. So try and maintain that gap there on that side. Can you see? You could do the eye in a pen if you're not confident with your brush. I'm going to tap in some of this black pattern. Now you'll see on this particular fish, and I think it's quite common, carp, this type of koi carp, the patterns are bigger along the body and they're more spotty and splodgy on their head. This has started to dry back now. I can see my ink isn't spreading. So tiny little marks, just literally tapping down the tip of my brush, letting it play and dance across paper to get this range of marks. I'm just going to take my time over these. We have no rush. Haven't got any rush. Only 13. Do people not like fish? Oh dear. Well, I was going to do the bird tomorrow. I've already selected him. So if you can comment, this is the bird that I was going to do tomorrow. Or if you want me to do something different. So he's going to be more in technical pens with ink. And this ink wash. So make a comment. Let me know if you want me to do something different completely to see. Save me having to make the decision. You guys, around this eye, got some lovely markings going all around the orbit of the eye here and around the other side. There's like some tear coming down here. Do if you're not with your brush, and you can go to the tiniest brush that you've got. You can also, let me grab, you could also, guys, wet the area where the face is for the small dots. And using your bamboo pen, put it into the ink and drop it into the water. Now I've done this very quickly and that's still very wet, so my splodges are spreading out. So if you're going to do this, wait for it to dry back a little. And do this on his face. With the bamboo tip pen, you've got more control. It doesn't have it on it because it's in ink like it can on a brush. The brush really soaks up the ink, whereas it's got to work with what's on the nib. So you can use your bamboo pen or a nib if you've got an old fountain pen. just use that to dip it in your ink and touch down into the spot. If your page is still too wet, you'll see it straight away spread out like it did here, and you'll end up with these splodges. So just test it. Okay, so bamboo is a really good solution for these smaller marks. And again, I'm just tapping down where I see that pattern. Go back to my brush now. As the marks start getting bigger, same mode, tapping down. Can you see now this is drying on my fish, how he's not as dark as pink? So just down beside the gills here and by this fin at the side, and down there. This is very relaxing. Koi carp, well, fishing generally are very relaxing to watch, aren't they? Painting them is just as relaxing. I highly recommend. I might add this guy to my mugs. I've got a collection of colour and ink mug characters. And other than the fish that I did in water and a carp for Father's Day, with Father's Day in mind, I don't really have any male-orientated mugs. So maybe this fish could be swimming merrily around a mug. What do you think, guys? Just tapping this colour, looking at the pattern. I've just 2 pictures of fish on the go, and I started painting the pattern on another fish. So if you're wondering what I was doing then and it doesn't resemble this one, it's because I've got 2 fish. I started looking in front of me where the other fish on my easel. So yeah, just up the tail fin and back to my dotting. Dot, 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 dot. Bring this pattern in. I'm going to put my fish up there, guys, because I keep looking. I'm going to turn him off, actually. I keep looking at the wrong thing. Do you mind if I'll put him there? Can you still see him? Great, that's better. So up this tail fin. Bring this mark down. There's another spot coming along the side of his belly and just under there and a bit on his fin. Be careful with paper that it isn't still wet, because you know what will happen if you're putting this ink next to an area that's wet, your ink will spread. Hello, Stephanie. Ah, you're doing pen and watercolour. Excellent. I really don't know why the sound is jumpy. I'll try to say too much, and hopefully the picture's better than the sound, because I have full signal for once today. I'm just bringing these splodges in. Look how the colour. In fact, Stephanie, I might do this in watercolour as well. I'm bringing those beautiful oranges that would be in this fish. But I also do love the quality of ink, the colours that you get, shades and tones that you can create with just one ball, you know, a brush and some ink. It's such fun. Okay, and coming down his splodge, so just tapping away. Where the splodge is slightly that my mark making changes and I'm doing more of a circle, just because I've got a bigger area to cover. Then to the edges of those marks, I go back to my dots, because the doesn't have a straight line on the fish. These splodges have randomness to the edges of them. They're not straight and solid. And there's lots more splodges. I love that word, splodges. A few more patterns back here. Okay, there's a round there. Going back to his towel, and I'm going to use the brush. That's how so many people today, the sound. And I'm just going to, I've hardly got any water on my brush. I'm bringing the colour of the ink that I've got on, which is the dark. I'm just coming in, almost across these to bring in this pattern. Right up on the tip of my brush. As I can see some lines in lovely towel fin that I'm trying to capture. I brush out, and I'm just going to bring some water over the top. It's already dry. Okay, I'm going to go to my bamboo pen now, into the dark ink. I'm using the back of the nib, and I'm going to scratch in some patterns over the wet paper. They will start to sink in and soften, but it's a nice way to bring in these fins. I'm just going to turn my fish round. Your sound is jumpy too. It's clearly my end then. Sorry guys, it's pointless stopping now. We're nearly done. I'm just going to turn my reference paper. Turn your painting round to get a better angle. Turn your reference around too. Don't strain to see. So using the nib pen, you could use a brush if you haven't got one of those. And I'm just bringing in the patterns on the fin. As I say, using the bamboo pens, they don't hold as much ink as the brush. So it gives you that much more control, that you're not going to saturate it with a big blob or ink where you don't want it, because it will only hold so much ink. So again, in this fin at the back here, just loading my pen, dipping it in the ink, and bringing this pattern in from the edge of the fin and stroking it back up the fin. Look at this, he's nearly done. Isn't he great? I love him. Okay, I need to put around here. So with my bamboo pen, bring in these little whiskers. Turn him back round. Turn the reference picture back round. Now, he's ready for his eye. So I want a little highlight in his eyeball. Again, you could go to your technical fine liner pen to do this. I'm confident. Bring that eyeball in, retaining a spot of light at the top. There we go. And now I'm going to carry on using the pen to sketch around the edge. I'm just going to go pick up some ink. And again, if you wanted to here, instead use the back of the nib, because you're going to mark. And I'm going to use this very oriental to strengthen along the line of his back, come along his fin. Oh, has some wonderful on the edge of the towel. It's very floaty and feathery. So I'm going to go right up on of my bamboo, very tip, one corner, So I can bring a feathery like pattern. Now, I love, if I'm using Indian ink, I do like to do the whole thing in it, but you could use your pen for this, if that's what you have. And I would just sketch it and let the pen down as well. I think this one's running out. So I'm going back to my bamboo pen to find true oriental fish. Coming right up onto that nib. You have to reload it all the time, but don't worry about that. That's normal. And it's better that than to try and do it with your brush. A few more lines into this fish. There we go. Along the, it'll add some weight to the belly, so the fish isn't going to go belly up. I'm also going to pull. Can you see making? I'm putting the back of the nib pen on the paper and then dragging it up the fish. Makes a really lovely mark. That control, really sharpen the edge of this side of him. I love my fish. And come round the fin. Yeah. Up on the corner. And I really want this to stand out, so I need this line to date this one. And I'm just going to drag from the edge of the fin again. Some pattern there. He's going to swim right off the page in a moment. Okay, I've now got this around the side of his face. There's a curve. It comes around his gill. This comes past the fin and up this there. Nearly done. Isn't he gorgeous? I love him. I'm glad I chose to do the fish. Maybe it's because I'm a Pisces. I'm always swimming in two different directions at once. Me. You notice I turn the board all the time when I'm drawing with the bamboo. It's just more for you. I'm going to miss doing these daily challenges. Has anyone signed up? No, I've got about 12 people signed up now to my Wednesday watercolour classes, art group that I'm switching to, and they start next Wednesday. So it's £10 to purchase entry into our private group. So I will still be doing my tutorials on there on Facebook, but you won't be able to see them unless you join the group and pay your £10. And the £10 will allow you to for a month. So you'll see 4 lessons for £10. So £2.50 a lesson. So watercolours on Wednesday. There's a pastel group day and a acrylic painting class on a Friday. In that, if I've still got the energy, I will still bring some of my tutorials free of charge on Facebook as well, at least one a week. But I know you've had the luxury of having me every day, guys, but sadly this is a way of making a living. It's classes, and until I can get back to normal, I need to, after 6 free classes, I do need to charge a small fee for them. So I hope some more of you will join in to ArtShare page and join the group. It will send you to where you pay your £10. Please remember to go back to Facebook and click join group. And Okay, it's been a bit of a headache trying to work out the best way to do this, and I think that will work well once the routine and it's up and running. So at the moment, I think I've got 12 people booked on for the watercolour art group and 8 or 9 on the pastels, and only 3 signed up for the acrylic one, which is a surprise. Have a look, join me on that. It'd be if you can continue to watch and support me. Let me see what you're saying. You've got a parrot to do now. Thank Natasha. I've never used pastels, but I have a little set. Can I join them? Of course you can. All you need is a little set of pastels, Natasha. Pastel paper. You need a good paper for the pastels to go in. If you want some advice, contact me, message me afterwards, and I'll give you some papers that you could order. I do have some, so I'll give you a couple of sheets. Let me know where you live and whether I can get them to you in time. Okay, so my fish is ready to swim away. These are my oriental brushes, guys. So if you want to supplement your brush collection, I've got some bamboo oriental brushes, the largest one. They are animal hair horns. And it's a set of 5 bamboo brushes. So they are also available, Indian ink and the dip pens. So if you like, look, maybe purchase a little shadow under my along rather than be a cast shadow. Up to the fins. Sorry, I've gone quiet because I have to think about where I want it, because I haven't got one in. I'm just kind of making that up, just soften that a little. So my fish is ready to swim off to pastures new. Bit to there. You wouldn't see the tail, would you? Because the tail's so just, and there we are, little fish ready to swim away. I hope you enjoyed watching that one. With me, Natasha, I'd love to see all of your pictures. Let me have ink. Joy ink came out, so send that over. Let me have a look later. Thanks for joining me, guys, and I will see you again tomorrow. Remember to let me know, do you want me to do another ink? Just comment on this video. Do you want me to do another ink one tomorrow, or would you like me to do something else for Friday? I'll talk tomorrow. Thanks everybody, see you soon. Bye.